Welcome back to the Aligned Path. My name is Kels, I'm the Great North Witch, and today we're up potting tomatoes. Okay, our first step is to get some of our potting soil into a container or a bucket, whatever. We need to make it wet. We need to start planting with wet soil. This is a good rule of thumb, even if you're just starting seedlings, planting seeds. Starting with wet soil prevents, hydrophobic soil when your water has a really difficult time soaking in, which means you have to water more heavily, and it can wash away your seeds. It can wash away the light soil because it hasn't been watered down properly. It will make your life easier if you just start with wet soil. It's really dry and powdery. If you use this and went and up potted with it and then wanted to water, it would all wash away. So in this bucket, I'm adding in 2 of these vases of water. You're just going to get to a point where you can feel a good consistency and there's no more hydrophobic soil in your bucket. I like to use room temperature water unless you are specifically doing seeds that like cold soil, because we're trying not to shock our plants. Trying as best as we can to shock them as little as possible. And that cold soil right on their roots is probably not enjoyable. So I'm just adding that water in and making sure it's really mixed around in my soil well, so that there's no more dry soil. And that will help us get the right amount of soil in our new up-potted seedlings. You see the difference between this soil and this soil? Huge difference. So I will be up potting these tomatoes into potting soil. As seedlings, they were grown in seedling soil, which is sterilized, and it helps prevent disease that could, hinder the germination on your seedlings. And I have actually up potted these tomatoes once already, so they are currently in a little bit of seedling soil and the rest potting soil. But you can see on the bottom of your tomato, there's 2 tiny leaves that look different than all the other leaves. Those are our seedling leaves. They would have been the first ones to sprout on your plant, and you can actually pick them off on your tomatoes, because we want to pot our tomatoes quite deep so that all these bottom hairs are in soil, which will allow them to grow into roots. So I just flip the pot over and press on the bottom, holding it in one hand and the stem betwixt 2 fingers. And I use my other hand to flip and support. And I've already prepared a little divot in my bucket that's deeper than this amount of soil. So we want to be about 5 or 6 inches into the pot. And then I'm just going to fill all around it, gently packing it in. We want to make sure there's no holes in the soil, but we also don't want to compact the soil to the point that the roots have a hard time pushing their way through. And I'm using recycled yogurt containers. These are really great for tomatoes because you can rip them off and prevent root damage when you're transplanting into the garden, and they're recyclable. They're a great size for tomatoes for their last stage of up potting before they go to the garden. And I don't eat yogurt, but I'm sure somebody in your community, maybe you also don't eat dairy, someone in your community who's going to want a tomato from you midsummer probably eats ice cream all year round and could be saving their containers for you. Because the less plastic that we have in the environment, the better. And might as well give them a good use before they go right to the recycling. So potting soil does have, depending on the variety you're buying, some may have artificial or synthetic fertilizers, like little green balls you sometimes see, or it may have manure or compost mixed in, which will provide nutrients as well. But you do want to make sure that you're feeding your plants, even once they're seedlings. General rule of thumb that I follow is waiting until 2 sets of true leaves, so not the little seedling leaves, but true leaves. So you got 1, 2, waiting till 2 stems of true leaves appear on your plant before you're fertilizing it, just so that it's fully established. But then after that, we really should be fertilizing our seedlings up to, every other week, depending on what you're growing. But a lot of plants are really big feeders, and a lot of people have trouble growing their tomatoes or growing their peppers, growing their eggplants. And I often find it's because they're lacking nutrients. You want big food, you got to give your plants big food. Whether that's your homemade organic compost, an organic fertilizer. I really like the fish fertilizers. Like there's a good company that makes a marine kelp one. There's also like fish fertilizer. It's like pulverized fish. It smells like it sounds like it's going to smell. But it works wonders for tomatoes. They love it, love it, love it. So my tomatoes still have 6 weeks before, almost 6.5 weeks before last frost. So they're going to need these larger homes to last because they're inside. But you could use solo cups if you were closer to your last frost date. Solo cups would be a good up potting size from a Tetra Pak or whatever you have it growing in right now. So again, I'm just popping off my 2 leaves, supporting the stem with my 2 fingers as I flip the pot over, and just press on the center or squeeze the sides gently and it should pop right out. And we'll support our ball as we flip it back over and gently set it into the hole. You can adjust. See, I have this guy's a little bit leaning, but that's okay because I'm going to hide that whole stem that has a slight bend in it from reaching for the sun. And that's all going to establish roots for us. And I like to use mycorrhizae, I don't actually remember how to say it. I like to use the mycorrhizae inoculation, which helps the roots really take off. I need some more soil. I'll be right back. So when we up pot, I find it best to wait at least a week before adding fertilizer or any nutrients, because that can shock the plant. And this process of up potting, even though we're being very gentle, can also shock the plant. So we're just trying to make it as comfortable as possible for them as they move into their new homes. And this is the same process I use for my eggplants and my peppers, specifically like taking off those little bottom leaves. Starter leaves don't have to come off on things that aren't nightshades, I'd say. And they really don't have to. You could leave them. They're going to fall off by themselves. But I just like to get that stem buried nice and deep. There you have it. It's really that simple.
Until next time.